Welcome back to the deep dive. We're diving deep this time into The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel.
And let me tell you, this is not your typical finance book.
Yeah, when I first picked it up, I thought, oh, great, another book about, compound interest.
Right, like how to budget and track your spending. We've all heard that before.
Exactly. But Housel takes a totally different approach.
Yeah.
He's like, forget the spreadsheets for a minute. Let's talk about the human side of money.
I think that's what makes it so fascinating.
Totally. Like right off the bat, he throws you this wild story about this tech executive. This guy designed some crucial part for Wi-Fi routers in his 20s.
Talk about a brilliant start.
I know, right? Founds and sells companies, makes a killing.
Okay.
But then things get interesting, to say the least.
Interesting is a good word for it. Housel describes this guy's behavior with money as this weird mix of insecurity and, I'm just going to quote him here, childish stupidity.
It's crazy. The guy's like walking around with bricks of $100 bills, just flashing them to everyone.
Bragging constantly about how rich he is, usually over a few drinks too.
Oh, yeah. There's that whole scene where he's arguing with a hotel manager about a room upgrade.
It ends up just chucking thousands of dollars at the guy.
Just to prove a point. Like, come on, dude.
So yeah, maybe not the best financial role model.
But that's kind of the point, right? This guy, despite all his intelligence and early success, ends up broke.
It's like a real-life cautionary tale about how unsustainable habits can lead to ruin no matter how much money you're making.
Exactly. So it's not enough to be smart or talented. You gotta have the right mindset.
It's like your financial psychology can completely overshadow everything else when it comes to building lasting wealth.
And that's what makes this book so valuable.
Mm.
It helps you uncover those hidden patterns and biases that are driving your financial decisions.
So you can start making choices that actually align with your goals.
Okay, so we've got this cautionary tale about the tech exec. But then Housel introduces us to Ronald Reed. Now, this guy's story is completely different.
Ronald Reed was a janitor?
A janitor.
Yeah.
And he quietly amassed an $8 million fortune.
Can you believe that?
It's incredible. Talk about inspiring. It shows you that wealth really is possible for anyone.
And get this. He did it through disciplined saving, investing in blue-chip stocks, and letting those investments compound over decades.
So no get-rich-quick schemes here.
Yes.
Just the steady, quiet power of time and consistency.
Exactly. It's a powerful reminder that you don't need to win the lottery or be a Wall Street genius to build wealth.
But it does make you wonder, right? What makes these two guys so different? One ends up broke, the other's a multimillionaire.
That's where Housel's insights about personal experiences really come into play. He argues that our upbringing, our cultural background, even the economic conditions we've lived through all shape our perceptions of risk and reward.
And ultimately our financial decisions.
Exactly. Like imagine someone who grew up during a recession. They might be super cautious with money.
While someone who's only ever known economic stability might be more willing to take risks.
It's all about perspective.
You know what? He even talks about this anecdote. It's about how a Chinese worker's nephew was actually defending what many would consider sweatshop conditions.
Because for them, those jobs were a step up, offering more opportunity than they'd ever had before.
Wow, that really puts things into perspective.
Yeah.
It shows that what might seem irrational from one point of view can make perfect sense in another context.
And that's why it's so crucial to understand our own biases and how they're influencing our choices.
Because we all come to the table with different baggage, both emotional and financial.
So much of it is unconscious.
But it's driving our decisions nonetheless.
Oh.
Okay, so we've got personal experiences playing a big role in our financial lives.
Absolutely.
But what about luck? I mean, we've all heard those stories about people being in the right place at the right time, like winning the lottery or striking it rich on some crazy investment.
Right place, right time, pure chance. Where does that fit into all of this?
Yeah, because isn't it kind of demoralizing if it's all just down to luck?
That's a great question. And Housel tackles this head on. He uses the example of Bill Gates.
Bill Gates. The ultimate self-made billionaire, right?
That's the narrative we often hear. But Housel points out something really interesting. Back in the 1960s, Bill Gates just happened to attend one of the very few schools in the world that had a computer.
So he was just incredibly lucky.
It was an almost unimaginable advantage at the time, an opportunity that most people couldn't even fathom.
Wow. So even Bill Gates got a little boost from serendipity.
It wasn't all pure genius and hard work.
And to really drive home the point about luck, Housel brings up Gates' classmate, Kent Evans.
Yeah. Tragically, Evans died young in a mountain climbing accident.
Which is a reminder that even with all the privilege and opportunity in the world, life can be incredibly unpredictable.
Unforeseen circumstances can change everything in an instant.
It definitely puts things into perspective. So yeah, we can strive for success, but recognizing the role of chance is crucial,
And being prepared for setbacks.
both financial and personal. So we've got personal experiences shaping our views and luck adding another layer of complexity.
It's a fascinating mix.
It is. But what about those who actually manage to build wealth? Is there some secret formula for staying rich? It's funny, because when you think about wealth, you usually think about making it right.
Yeah, like how to earn more, how to invest better.
But what about keeping it?
That's where things get interesting.
Because it seems like some people just have a knack for holding on to their money.
While others, no matter how much they make, end up right back where they started.
It's like they can't help but spend it all.
Housel talks about this, and it's not just about being frugal or having good self-control.
So it's something deeper than that.
It's a mindset shift, he says. Staying wealthy requires a degree of paranoia.
Paranoia. Really? That seems a bit extreme.
I know it sounds intense, but think of it more like a healthy awareness of risk.
Okay, so not like you're constantly looking over your shoulder?
No, not at all. It's more about recognizing that fortunes can disappear as quickly as they're made.
So don't take anything for granted.
Right, and understand that preserving wealth requires a different approach than building it.
Okay, I can see that. It's like you're playing defense instead of offense.
To illustrate this point, Housel tells these contrasting stories about Jesse Livermore, a legendary stock trader, and Abraham Dramansky, a real estate developer.
Now I'm curious. Tell me more about them.
So Livermore was this Wall Street wizard making and losing fortunes through speculation.
High risk, high reward kind of guy.
He's famous for making the equivalent of $3 billion in a single day during the 1929 market crash.
Whoa, that's insane.
I know, right? But as you can imagine, that kind of risk-taking eventually led to his downfall.
The higher you climb, the harder you fall.
Now, Draminsky, he was also successful, but he lost everything in that same 1929 crash.
And what happened to him?
Tragically, he might have taken his own life because of it.
Oh, well. That's so sad. But what's the connection between these two stories?
It's this idea of a survival mindset in finance.
What does that mean exactly?
It's not just about making money, but about avoiding those catastrophic losses that can wipe out years of hard work.
Or like having a safety net.
Exactly. It's a crucial insight, and it leads to this whole idea of playing the long game. Being patient, recognizing that true wealth is built over time, not through quick wins or risky gambles.
So slow and steady wins the race.
In a way, yes. It's about recognizing the power of time and consistency.
So it's not just about how much money you make, but how you manage it.
Precisely. It's about developing habits that support your long-term well-being.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But how do you actually do that? I mean, there are so many different approaches to managing money.
Right, and that's where things can get overwhelming. But Housel argues that one of the most powerful tools for building lasting wealth is something we often hear about, but maybe don't fully grasp.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What is it?
Compounding. Have you heard of that?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Like the eighth wonder of the world or something.
Exactly. But it can seem a bit magical, right? Like, how does money really earn money?
It's hard to wrap your head around.
The longer your investments compound, the more that growth accelerates. It's not just about getting decent returns. It's about letting those returns build upon each other year after year.
So it's like a snowball effect.
Exactly. And that's why time is so crucial. The earlier you start investing, the more time that snowball has to roll and gather momentum.
So it's not about trying to time the market or pick individual stocks.
Well, not necessarily. The key is to find investments that you believe in and that have the potential to grow over the long term.
And then just let them do their thing.
Exactly. Don't get caught up in the day-to-day fluctuations of the market. Stay focused on your long-term goals.
So patience is key.
Absolutely. Patience and discipline.
Okay, I'm convinced compounding is awesome.
Yeah.
But let's step back for a second and think about the ultimate goal of building wealth. What is it really all about? Is it just about having a big pile of money? What's the point if you're not enjoying it?
You're hitting on something really important here. And Housel really challenges conventional thinking about wealth.
Okay, I'm listening.
He argues that the highest form of wealth isn't about possessions or a specific number in your bank account.
So what is it about then?
It's about freedom and flexibility.
Okay, I like where this is going.
It's about having the ability to control your time and make choices based on what truly matters to you.
Not being tied to a job you hate or feeling trapped in a situation you can't escape.
Exactly. It's about having the financial security to pursue your passions, spend time with loved ones, or simply walk away from something that's no longer serving you.
It sounds pretty amazing, actually. It's like having options.
Exactly. And to illustrate this, I'll share a personal anecdote. I once had this high-paying finance internship.
Oh, yeah, those are notorious.
It was absolutely miserable. The hours were insane. I had zero control over my schedule.
It's like selling your soul for a paycheck.
And that's exactly what it felt like.
But you were making good money.
Right.
So what was the problem?
Housel uses this term reactance to describe the negative psychological response we have when we feel a lack of control. It's like this internal rebellion against being forced to do something we don't want to do.
So even if the work itself isn't that bad, if you feel trapped, it's going to make you miserable.
It can, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why having control over your time is so crucial. It's a fundamental human need.
It's about having agency.
Exactly. And when you have that sense of agency, you're more likely to be engaged and productive in whatever you're doing.
Okay, so freedom and flexibility are the goals. But so much of our culture seems obsessed with the opposite, right? It's all about conspicuous consumption. Keeping up with the Joneses, showing off your latest gadgets.
It's true. We're bombarded with messages that tell us we need more stuff to be happy. But Housel reminds us that true wealth is often what you don't see.
Okay, that's interesting. Explain that a little more.
It's the financial assets you haven't yet spent.
So it's about having that cushion that gives you choices.
Exactly. It's about having the freedom to say no to things that don't align with your values.
Or to say yes to opportunities that might come your way.
It's about having options.
It's funny because I immediately think about that story Housel tells about Rihanna, you know, the singer.
Oh, yes. The one where she almost went bankrupt.
Despite being incredibly successful.
It's a cautionary tale. It shows that even those with extraordinary incomes can derail their financial well-being if they prioritize spending over saving and investing.
It's not about how much you make, but how much you keep.
And what you do with it.
Exactly. So saving is crucial.
It's a fundamental building block of financial security.
But it's not always easy, right? Especially when you're just starting out or living paycheck to paycheck.
It can be a challenge. But Housel highlights that our ability to save is often more in our control than we think.
So it's not just about having a high income.
It's about making conscious choices about where your money goes.
And resisting those temptations to spend.
Exactly. Because so much of our spending is driven by unconscious habits and social pressures.
It's like we're on autopilot.
And that's why developing self-awareness is so crucial.
Okay, so we need to be mindful of our spending, resist those social pressures, and cultivate that saving mindset. But once we've saved some money, what do we do with it? That's where the whole world of investing comes in.
Which can feel pretty intimidating, I know.
Especially for someone who's just starting out. There's so many options, so much jargon.
It's easy to get overwhelmed, but Housel doesn't give specific investment advice.
So what does he do?
He focuses on the principles that should guide your decision-making.
Okay, like what?
One of the most important is defining your own game plan.
Can you remind us what that means again?
It's about clarifying your financial objectives, your time horizon, and your risk tolerance. What are you saving for? When will you need the money? How much volatility are you comfortable with?
It's like having a roadmap for your investments.
Exactly. And once you have that roadmap, you can start making decisions that are aligned with your goals.
And not get swayed by what everyone else is doing.
Right, because remember, everyone is playing a different game.
It's like comparing your insides to someone else's outsides.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, we need a plan, we need patience, and we need discipline. But with so many different investment strategies out there, how do we even choose one?
That's the million-dollar question, and there's no easy answer.
So how do we avoid getting analysis paralysis?
Housel emphasizes the importance of aligning your investment strategy with your own personality, risk tolerance, and financial goals.
So find an approach that feels right for you.
Exactly. Don't just blindly follow someone else's advice or get caught up in the latest trend.
Because what works for one person might not work for another.
Exactly. And that's why knowing yourself is so important.
He even shares his own investment approach in the book, right?
He does. And it's a great example of how to simplify things and remove the emotion from investing.
Okay, I'm all ears. What's his secret?
He's actually a self-proclaimed passive investor.
What does that mean?
He invests in low-cost index funds and holds them for the long term.
So he's not trying to time the market or pick individual stocks.
Nope. He's just betting on the overall growth of the economy.
And for him, that approach makes sense.
It aligns with his belief in long-term growth, his relatively high-risk tolerance, and his desire to keep things simple.
It's about finding that sweet spot where you're comfortable with the level of risk you're taking and confident in the strategy you've chosen.
Even if it's not the most exciting or glamorous approach.
Because ultimately, it's about peace of mind, right?
Exactly. You can't enjoy your wealth if you're constantly stressed about losing it.
Okay, so find an approach that resonates with you. Understand the risks involved and have the discipline to stick with it.
That's a great starting point.
But earlier we talked about having room for error. What about those unexpected events, those black swan moments that seem to come out of nowhere and throw all our plans out the window?
Yes. Those outlier events, the things we couldn't have predicted no matter how much we planned or how diversified our portfolios are.
Those are scary.
They can be unsettling, for sure.
Housel calls them single points of failure, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's like your entire plan hinges on this one thing working, and if that one thing breaks, the whole system collapses.
And those are the things you just can't anticipate, right?
It's a humbling reminder that we're not in control of everything.
So how do we protect ourselves from those unknowns, those unpredictable events that can throw a wrench in even the best laid plans?
Housel's advice is to avoid single points of failure whenever possible.
So basically, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. It's about having backups, redundancy, spreading the risk.
So things like diversifying your investments, having an emergency fund, and maybe not relying on a single source of income.
You got it. It's about building in those buffers that can help you absorb the shocks when they inevitably come.
It's like having a financial safety net.
A financial safety net and a flexible mindset.
So it's not just about the tangible things, but also about our mental and emotional preparedness.
Absolutely. Because when those unexpected events do happen, and they will, it's our ability to adapt and adjust that will determine our long-term success.
So it's not about trying to predict the future, but about being prepared for the range of possibilities.
Exactly. And having the flexibility to respond effectively no matter what comes your way.
I love that. It's about having a plan, but also being willing to deviate from it when necessary.
That's the key to resilience.
And resilience is ultimately what allows us to navigate the complexities of the financial world and build lasting wealth.
It's about being able to roll with the punches and come out stronger on the other side.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive.
We have.
We've talked about saving, investing, dealing with uncertainty, avoiding those single points of failure that can derail our best efforts.
And most importantly, the role of our own psychology.
Because ultimately, our mindset, our habits, and our beliefs are what shape our financial reality.
It's all interconnected. These principles form a framework for making sound financial decisions.
A framework that's grounded in self-awareness, discipline, and a realistic but optimistic view of the future.
Exactly. It's not about getting rich quick or following some magic formula.
It's about empowering yourself to take control of your financial life and build a future that reflects your values and aspirations.
Join us for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll explore some of the most important takeaways from the psychology of money and how you can apply them to your own life.
You know, as we wrap up our deep dive into the psychology of money, it's really got me thinking about how much our mindset impacts our financial lives.
It's huge, and it's so easy to get caught in the comparison trap, right?
Oh, totally. Scrolling through social media, seeing everyone's perfect vacations, their fancy cars, their dream homes.
It's like everyone else is winning at the money game except for you.
But Housel reminds us that those comparisons are often meaningless because we're all playing different financial games.
With different goals, different timelines, different levels of risk tolerance.
It's like comparing apples to oranges or, Bitcoin to bonds.
Exactly. Someone who's day trading crypto might be making huge returns, but they're also taking on a level of risk that would give most people a heart attack.
Right. And on the flip side, someone who inherited a fortune might appear incredibly wealthy.
But they haven't necessarily earned it or developed the skills to manage it.
So it's not just about the money itself. It's about how you got it and what you're doing with it.
And most importantly, how it makes you feel.
Okay, so the key takeaway here is that there's no single right way to approach money.
What matters is finding a path that aligns with your values, your goals, and your own personal definition of success.
Because what works for one person might be a disaster for another.
Exactly. So how do we go about defining that path, that game plan that works for us?
Yeah, where do we even begin?
Housel suggests starting with a simple question. What are you hoping to achieve? What are your financial aspirations?
Is it early retirement, financial independence, the ability to travel the world?
Or maybe it's something completely different, like starting your own business or funding a creative project.
The point is to get clear on what you really want.
Because once you know your destination, you can start figuring out the best route to get there.
And that includes understanding your own risk tolerance, right?
Absolutely. Because some people are naturally more comfortable with volatility than others.
If a market downturn is going to keep you up at night, you might need to adjust your strategy accordingly.
It's about finding that balance between seeking returns and preserving your peace of mind.
You can enjoy your wealth if you're constantly stressed about losing it.
So true. Okay, so we need to define our goals, know our risk tolerance, and then find an approach that fits.
But one thing that really struck me as we were talking about all these different strategies is Housel's emphasis on avoiding extremes.
Oh, I totally agree with that.
It's so easy to get caught up in all or nothing thinking, like, going all in on some risky investment.
Or adopting an ultra-frugal lifestyle where you're depriving yourself of all joy.
But those extreme approaches, they often backfire, don't they?
They can, because our goals and priorities change over time.
What seems appealing at one stage in life might feel restrictive or unfulfilling later on.
Exactly. Like if you sacrifice all your enjoyment today to save for early retirement.
You might find that you've missed out on experiences that you can't recapture later.
Or conversely, if you overspend in your younger years, you might find yourself struggling to catch up financially later on.
And feeling resentful of the choices you made.
So it's all about finding that middle ground, that balance that allows you to enjoy life today while still building a solid foundation for the future.
I love that sustainability. It's about creating a system that works for you over the long haul.
Not just chasing quick fixes or temporary highs.
Exactly. Because that sustainability is what allows compounding, that magical force we talked about earlier, to really work its magic.
Consistency over time generates the most significant results.
Okay, so we need to define our goals, avoid extremes, find that balance, and trust the process.
Sounds like a plan.
But let's face it, life throws curveballs. Things don't always go according to plan, no matter how well we prepare.
That's true.
How do we deal with the inevitable setbacks and unexpected challenges?
Well, that's where Housel's concept of embracing the mess comes in.
Embracing the mess. That sounds a bit chaotic.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But it's actually quite liberating. It's about acknowledging that there's no single right answer in finance.
And that smart, well-informed people can disagree.
Exactly. And that unexpected events, those things we can't control, will inevitably happen.
So it's not about trying to predict the future with 100% accuracy.
It's about being prepared to adapt when things don't go as planned.
Okay, so flexibility is key.
Absolutely. And a willingness to adjust our plans as needed.
So being able to pivot is crucial.
Exactly. Because when those unexpected events do happen, and they will, it's our ability to adapt and adjust that will determine our long-term success.
So it's not about being perfect, it's about being resilient.
That's a great way to put it. And I think that resilience, that willingness to embrace the messiness of life, is something that we can all cultivate with practice.
It's a mindset shift from seeking perfection to embracing the journey with all its twists and turns.
Exactly. And that takes the pressure off having to have all the answers up front.
So we can approach our financial journey with more curiosity, a willingness to experiment, and a sense of humor.
I like that. A sense of humor is essential.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the psychology of money, I'm feeling a renewed sense of hope and optimism.
Me too.
It's not about getting rich quick or following some magic formula.
It's about understanding ourselves, our biases, our strengths and weaknesses.
By making choices that are aligned with our values and our long-term well-being.
It's about recognizing that money is a tool that can help us create the life we want.
But it's not the end goal in itself.
The real goal is to live a life that is meaningful and fulfilling.
And to use our financial resources to support that vision.
I think that's a message we can all get behind.
I want to thank our listeners for joining us on this journey into the psychology of money.
We hope you found it as insightful and inspiring as we have.
Remember, this is just the beginning. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep striving to build a financial future that reflects your unique vision of success.
That's it for this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring.